Oh man.
Oh snap! Merry Christmas! Welcome to the Brothers Game podcast with me, Nikolai,
And me, Brian. Hello.
and that's Brian. Hello, it's Christmas time.
Hey, it's Christmas.
Well, it's just after
time.
Christmas time.
Yeah.
This is our big bash of Christmas spoils and mostly Japan trip. All right.
And this is, I think, this is right around our third anniversary, I think, of the podcast.
Yes. It's our third or fourth Christmas spoils episode, I think.
Yeah.
So-
We started in December of 2019, and
Jeez,
it is 2022. So
that's
yeah.
wild, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, I've been doing this for quite a while, actually.
Yeah.
This little
Interesting
podcast.
what all has transpired since we started.
Oh, an absurd amount of things. Yeah.
Yes, the world is a different place than when we started this podcast.
Yeah, seriously. And my life is quite different
Indeed.
between house and all that.
So yeah, I went to Japan.
You freaking did.
It was pretty freaking sweet. So
But like you actually went.
I know it's sort of like not real to me almost.
Yeah.
Except that I have the photos to prove it.
have photo
I
evidence.
have like 200 photos that I took while I was there. So
Yep.
yeah, but wow.
Because, I mean, that's been how many years coming, you think?
Long time. So I'd say I've always thought Japan was an interesting place, but I think maybe the first time I had a real genuine desire to go, not just I thought the place was cool and interesting, but
Right,
like I
passing
really
interest.
want to go there someday, was probably when I was 14, 15, when I started taking Japanese in high school.
Right.
And that was almost 20 years ago. So it's been a long time coming.
It's a bit of a time, yeah. Basically, I've always known you to be a Japan fan.
Yes.
Like my entire life, basically.
Yeah.
Between Japanese video games, Godzilla movies, and then anime. I mean, it just made sense, you know?
Ever since thinking ninjas were cool when I was a little kid.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yep.
It's like the earliest. And then, of course, our mom's has loved
Even
Japan.
she
for
loved
her-
Japan,
for
yeah.
a very long time. So longer
Yeah.
than I've been alive. So there was that influence as well.
Definitely. There were. What comes to mind is the game Way of the Samurai
Yes.
for PlayStation 2, which we played a long time
Well,
ago.
and the anime Rurouni Kenshin.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Definitely.
Which I associate with you very often.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I had all the old Godzilla movies on
Yeah,
VHS.
I still love Godzilla.
I still have that collection, even though I don't even have a
Yeah.
VCR.
a VCR, yeah. Nope, that's awesome.
But yeah, I would have had the opportunity to go while I was in high school, except
Right. Yeah, you
the
were telling me
cost
about
was
that.
over $2,000, and there was no way I could get that kind of money together back
Yeah,
then.
for sure.
We just didn't. It would have had to all come from our mom, and
We were
she
not
just didn't have
especially-
that kind of disposable income.
Yeah, we were
back
not
then.
especially well off, so. Yeah.
Especially not while I was in high school. She was divorced at the time.
Yeah,
just
single mom,
There
trying her
wasn't
best,
a second
basically.
income in the house or anything.
Yeah,
So yeah,
for
it,
sure.
it would not have worked out. But I'm glad it finally was able to after
Yeah.
all this time.
100%.
So the total cost at the end was probably $6,000.
Yeah.
So I pretty much drained my savings going here, but it was worth it. And
That's what it's all about, though. I mean, it's, yeah.
and I'm in a good enough position with my job and stuff.
Right,
I can take
it didn't
this,
bankrupt you, yeah.
Yeah. Like I'll be able to build my savings back up quickly enough.
Yeah, and I
that
think
it's not
before
gonna
you-
be a problem.
Before you're married and stuff, now's the time to do
Yeah,
it,
actually,
you know?
frankly, yeah.
For sure.
So I had to start off with, like, I'm obviously, I live in Portland. I flew from Portland Airport to San Francisco Airport, where I had a layover for a few hours. Great way to kill time when you have a layover is to go at a sit-down restaurant, because they're so slow.
It takes
It takes so
forever.
long. Like, the thing is the time it took just to
That's
get
funny.
my order in, and then just to have somebody come and collect my bill once I was done took plenty of time.
This was inside the airport, you're
Yes.
saying? Okay.
So what I generally do when I'm flying is I will go to the gate and then figure out, okay, this is where the gate is. And now that I've gone through security and everything, I'm just going to look for something to eat as close to my gate as possible so that at a moment's notice, I can run to the gate.
Yeah, I'm always a little paranoid about that too. Yeah. Staying as close to my gate as possible.
So I often wind up with like 2 hours sitting at the gate. Yeah. But whatever. I'd so much rather that than miss a flight. Or run into any sort of complications because I was running late or something like that. I just want to avoid all of that.
Definitely.
And like, it never takes me long to get through security, but I always act as if it will. Because you just never know.
You never know.
Like, I even got TSA pre-check, which, by the way...
Yeah, how was that experience?
So they tell you...
Tell us what happened there.
They tell you that you don't have to take off your shoes and belt and stuff. That's a load of BS.
Well, you did.
I had to take off... I had to do all the same stuff everybody else did. The only difference, literally the only difference, is I got a shorter line.
Okay.
That's it. There's a shorter line for TSA pre-check. It was like a Disney Fast Pass.
I wonder if that depends on what airport you're at.
It could.
I don't know.
It's possible, but yeah.
Interesting.
At PDX, they don't care if you're strict, TSA pre-check. You still got to take your shoes off and
interesting.
Empty your pockets, take off your belt, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, whatever. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Because I still got through security really quick because I travel super light. I pack super light. So there's nothing questionable for them to ask about. Really, so was no big deal.
That's good.
Yeah, and then the flight was brutal. It was
like, that's a long flight.
10.5 hours. The airplane was uncomfortably warm the whole time. Mm-hmm. And because everybody else was trying to sleep, I didn't want to bother anybody, so I didn't like put a reading light on or anything. So it was
right. So
reading a book was kind of out of the question. Plus, I was a little too tired to read anyway. Yeah. So I tried to sleep, but I can't sleep sitting up even in the best of cases generally, let alone on an uncomfortable flight. Mm-hmm. Plus, I was in the middle seat, which was
the worst seat.
Yeah, it's just the worst because like now I apparently was really dehydrated that whole flight because I only peed twice on a 10.5 hour flight.
Yeah.
And normally I'm peeing like once an hour. So on just a regular basis. So yeah, I must have been pretty dehydrated.
That's funny.
Which didn't help with anything else.
The comfort level, yeah.
But it did mean I didn't have to bother the person next to me too many times.
Mm-hmm. Jeez. So that's fun.
Yeah. But so what I wound up spending a lot of the time, a lot of the flight doing is they had this like this thing you could watch that showed the distance the plane had traveled, the distance left, where the plane was, like
a little map, globe, basically,
and like your altitude, headwind, all that stuff. Which, like, I'm a nerd, so
yeah, that's interesting.
Appealed to me, and also I'm one of those people that like always wants to know what time it is, and so that was nice too because I got to see what's the time right now in San Francisco, what's the time right now in Japan, what's the time in the time zone we're currently in, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
There was nothing interesting to see outside. It was just black the whole time because we left.
It's night and you're over the ocean.
Yeah. We left at like 7:30 p.m. San Francisco time, and we arrived at before 5 a.m. Japan time. So yeah, it was just dark the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like because of the way spheres work, because the Earth isn't flat, turns out.
What? No way.
You want to fly in an arc to have the straightest possible flight path. That, and I think maybe I don't know enough about aviation to know this for sure, but I assume that flying near land is a good idea in case there are problems arise.
Sure.
So they fly like along the Alaskan coast.
Generally true, yeah.
The Alaskan southern coast. And then along, like, I know it's not called Kamchatka anymore, but that's where what it's called on Risk. So, that eastern portion of Russia next to Alaska.
Nice.
You fly by that, and then you fly by Hokkaido, which apparently Hokkaido has no international airport, so you can't fly into
Oh,
Hokkaido.
interesting.
If you want to fly internationally into Japan, you have to fly through Narita or Haneda, no matter what. Even
There is 2 airports though, at least.
yeah, so I think there's 3 international ones.
Oh, okay.
Narita, Haneda, and then the Kansai
Not too
airport in like the Kyoto, Osaka area.
Yeah. The Kansai region.
Yes, the Kansai region, of course. Anyway, so I finally landed in Haneda, and I got a hotel right by the airport.
Yeah.
But I still
Oh, and
had
wasn't your hotel super cheap?
Oh yeah, it was $50.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Yeah, it was great.
Right by the airport in Tokyo.
It was a decently nice hotel too. Like,
yeah, that's surprising to me.
it wasn't the nicest one I've ever been to. But
I think it's just surprising because hotels are so expensive here. Mm-hmm. They just seem absurdly expensive.
I could not get a hotel that cheap in my own hometown.
Right. Very interesting. But anyway, continue.
I did have to take a train one stop from the airport in order to get to my hotel, because the airport's that big.
Yeah.
And so the Japanese train system, which a lot of people already know it's good. I'll just reiterate that it is very good.
So that's awesome.
Even if you don't speak Japanese, they give all the instructions in English as well. And they're pretty clear. In fact, there were a few times that like they were super clear. It's just that I had misinterpreted what they said.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that led to me being confused, but it was all my fault. Like, it was nothing they did or said. Because I used Google Maps, which is invaluable to get around in Japan. It works better than it does here in the US.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Like, navigating through Portland with Google Maps, not that great.
It's
but
difficult,
navigating through Tokyo, great.
How funny.
But yeah, so I thought I was taking a bus, and so I was really confused why there was just a train terminal basically, and I had a ticket, and apparently I was of course supposed to get on the train, but I thought I was getting on a bus, so I was like looking for where the buses were.
Hey, where's the bus?
And then I finally realized that I was an idiot, and so
finally
I went downstairs for the 3rd time and went on the track and got on the first train, and it took me right to the station I was supposed to go to.
Awesome.
Also, I went on like the longest escalator of my life, and it was a little intimidating. I was like, if I fall down, this will hurt very badly if I survive.
Dang. So you almost died on an escalator. That's cool.
Yeah. So I got to my hotel. Of course, it's 5 a.m. and the check-in time is 3 p.m. So way too early to actually check in.
A little far. Uh-huh.
But thankfully, you can just drop off your bags there, and they'll just hold them for you.
That's nice.
So that was great, because I brought a really big backpack and just put all my stuff in there, because I find backpacks way more convenient than luggage to carry around if you can fit all your stuff in there. And I could definitely, because this backpack is huge. I got it from
you got a massive backpack.
Sportsman's Warehouse, and yeah, it's just huge. So I could hold all my stuff in there easily.
Very cool.
So I dropped that off, and I'd gotten a pocket Wi-Fi and had it shipped to the hotel, and that was already there. So
yeah, that's really cool.
I was able to get that and not have to use roaming data while I was in Japan, which I wondered if that would work. And yeah, cell service and data actually worked just fine. I could have just done that, and it would have been just fine. But
would it have been more expensive though? Maybe
it might have. I'm not sure. I actually haven't looked at my phone bill, so yeah, I'll find out.
We'll see.
But yeah, so I decided to just explore the area immediately around the hotel at first.
Yeah.
Especially since nothing was going to be open except the convenience stores, which the convenience stores in Japan are actually pretty convenient.
Right.
They are everywhere.
And
you are never more than like a 2-minute walk from a convenience store if you're in a city.
And you can get like pretty real food there, yeah?
Yeah, you can get food, you can get energy drinks, which was helpful.
Of course, yeah.
Because I was really tired after that flight. And they're open 24 hours.
Oh, cool.
And
yeah, a lot of ours aren't,
yeah.
which is weird.
And so, which is nice if you need food and it's 2 a.m. and none of the restaurants are open.
For real.
I ran into the weird problem of being at McDonald's before they start breakfast.
Yeah.
Which hadn't happened to me before.
That's funny.
Used to be like, oh man, if I could only get there in time for breakfast. And this time it's like, oh, I got there too early for breakfast.
Too early, and I can only get a hamburger at 2 a.m.
Yeah. So weird.
Yep.
So each of the convenience stores has their own does their own take on this fried chicken.
Yes, karaage.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if this counts as karaage because it's different.
Oh,
but,
really?
It's more like,
I always assumed that just meant fried chicken, but
yeah. It's weird because I think technically, like dictionary definition, yes, but when you order karaage, you're getting a specific thing, just like with yakiniku. Yakiniku just means cooked meat.
yeah,
That's like the English equivalent is literally just cooked meat. But when you go to a yakiniku place, you're getting a specific
right. You don't
meal.
just get any cooked meat when you order that. Yeah, that's true.
So I think this is kind of the same thing. But so you have Family Mart, Famima, and they have their Fami Chiki.
Family Chicky.
Family Mart fried chicken.
That's
and
awesome.
there's Lawson, who has,
Yeah, I've heard of that too.
and 7-Eleven.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And so I had to try the chicken at each place, see how it compared.
So tell us your rankings, of course. I
liked-
cannot. I have no input, but
7-Eleven had the best texture, in my opinion.
okay.
Family Mart had the best flavor, but it was also the most greasy. Lawson was kind of
had
in
the
the
most
middle
flavor.
on both counts.
Okay. So was the middle better, or did you prefer then something else?
I will say I got Family Mart more often than any other.
Okay.
So I think the flavor really counts. And
That wins out, yeah.
out of the 3 times I got Family Mart fried chicken, the second time was the best.
Okay.
I don't even remember if that was in Kyoto or in Tokyo
Yeah.
when I did that. I started off in Tokyo, of course, because Haneda
Yeah.
and
That's where you
Narita are
flew
both in
into,
Tokyo.
pretty much, yeah.
So I figured I'd spend the first day in Tokyo
Tokyo's
regardless.
pretty huge, though, yeah?
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely massive. I saw a tiny, tiny fraction of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it would have to be because it has 2 international airports.
Yes.
So it's
So,
got to be
like,
pretty big.
The special wards, which are the areas that most people think of when they think of Tokyo, which includes like Shibuya, Shinjuku, Harajuku, all those kinds of places,
Sort of the main
famous
areas,
places.
yeah.
Those are all just considered the special wards, and that portion of Tokyo is not huge. It's big, but it's not any. It doesn't like dwarf other major cities.
Okay.
But once you start to include the rest of Tokyo proper, it's massive.
Gotcha.
So you could definitely see most of the special wards in a
day.
maybe 2 days,
Okay.
especially if you're really like aggressive about it.
Yeah. We're not there for very
not
long.
just taking your time, but you want to like see it all. You can
Sure.
do it. So my first stop was definitely going to be Akihabara because
yeah.
that's nerd heaven.
Yeah. If listeners don't know, that is the anime and video game capital of the world,
Yeah,
essentially.
basically.
It has 7-floor department stores that just have anime and video game merchandise, basically.
Yeah, I went
it's
into
pretty
a
absurd.
manga shop that was a 7-story manga shop.
Yeah, pretty absurd.
Yeah. And then one that was just all figures.
Yep, of course.
And then other stores that had mixes of other stuff as well.
Yeah. What was the least nerdy thing you saw there? The least nerdy in Akihabara. Was there anything that was just like out of place and not very nerdy?
I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Yeah. little
'Cause I mean,
opposites.
like there were restaurants that weren't anime themed, I guess. So
No, that's
not that
that's
nerdy.
something. Yeah, no, that's something.
I will say, so in Akihabara in particular, this sort of goes for a lot of Japan, but in Akihabara in particular, there were no public bathrooms, no public seating, and no public trash cans.
Yep, you told me a little about that.
Yeah. So if you are walking around and you have a full bladder, you have a pocket full of garbage, and your feet hurt, well, tough luck,
Yeah,
buddy.
sucks for you, I guess.
Because guess who was in that exact position?
Well, that's when you go to a cafe and buy something,
Yeah,
which you refuse to do apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, honestly, the cafe didn't have trash cans either.
What?
Yeah.
That's wild.
So I did find in one of the stores had a bathroom.
Okay, that's
And the
good.
bathroom had a tiny little trash can. And so
Awesome.
I went in there. So that was my safe haven.
Yes.
But as far
Something.
when it came to just sitting down, I could have bought something at the cafe and just sat in the cafe, which
Yeah.
would have been the smart thing. But instead, I went outside and sat on the stone steps.
Which is that's understandable. That's
Yeah.
fine. For
But,
me, I'm a coffee dude, so I would have done that anyway. So.
Yeah. I did get your gift and Mom's gift while I was in Akihabara,
Which was
'cause
quite cool. I got
We're
it for
both
Christmas.
anime nerds, and so I was able to get anime related gifts for you too.
Yes. And my wife is into that stuff, but only very specific ones.
Yeah. And so one thing I didn't really think about is that in Japan, at least in places like Akihabara, in the popular shops, you
Yeah.
can't find old anime merch.
Which was kind of surprising
really.
to me. I feel like in 7 floors you would have
Yeah.
a lot
It's
of different
like-
things.
There's just a handful of anime that are so popular that they're basically timeless.
Yeah,
And those are like Dragon Ball Z,
of course.
JoJo,
Which,
Bizarre Adventure.
although Dragon Ball Z is popular again because of a new anime too.
Well, that's true too. I guess you're right there.
Dragon
'Cause
Ball
with
Super,
Dragon Ball
yeah.
Super, and I mean, there's a currently airing JoJo part.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
even those two,
They're
have-
old, but also
yeah.
kind of current. Yeah,
I guess the oldest thing I saw was probably Madoka Magica.
yeah, yeah.
There was a little bit of stuff for that, and I don't think anything recent has come out for Madoka.
Fairly recently, there was like a spin-off sort of, but
Yeah,
even that
that
was
might be-
like a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
So,
It was mostly Tokyo Revengers,
yep, that's
Demon
huge.
Slayer, Yudu Camp.
No, you do camp,
Yep, My Hero Academia.
of course. Yeah,
Because that's just the latest shonen.
Yep,
besides
exactly.
Demon Slayer, I guess. And probably Tokyo Revengers, I imagine, is shonen
I think
too.
that's
I don't know
shonen
anything
also.
about it.
Yeah.
So
I've only heard of it. Yeah.
and quintessential quintuplets because of the movie that came
Oh,
out
yeah.
not too long ago.
That's cool.
Yeah. I did though see a whole wall of Zoids figures that
Yeah,
were so,
dude, that's so sick. I saw
They
you
were
sh-
really
You showed me
nice.
that picture. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
and then there was a whole thing of Final Fantasy VII because
Mm-hmm.
that's also timeless.
Yeah, and remake is fairly new.
Yeah.
Also, do you know they made a remake of Crisis Core?
I did see that.
The
I saw an
PSP
ad
game.
for it while I was there.
Yeah, I'm like, I kind of want to play that. Like the graphics look amazing.
Yeah.
And I like Zack a lot as a character, so I might look into that. It's on Switch and stuff, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
So I finally called it quits after I got my 2 gifts in Akihabara and I'd eaten a little and
What'd you eat there? Do you remember?
I did have that's the first McDonald's I had
Nice. Japanese McDonald's.
because I had to try it, and if you get a sausage McMuffin, it tastes pretty much exactly the same as a
Oh, yeah.
sausage McMuffin here. There's basically no difference.
That's cool.
And I love that they give you a comically small cup of water.
Oh yeah, you showed me that
It's
too.
so tiny.
Like a little shot glass of water.
Yeah, basically.
That's funny.
And so I finally I went back to the hotel room to dump my stuff
All this stuff, yeah.
because I didn't want to carry that all around while I was going around the rest of Tokyo. By this
sure.
point, my feet are killing me because I've been walking
Yeah.
up and down all these steps in Akihabara, the next place I wanted to go was Shinjuku. I was thinking about
Oh,
all
yeah.
the different areas of Japan. It's like, okay, that's a famous part of Tokyo, well known. Want to just check it out. And I
Definitely.
just kind of wandered around a bit, and which I highly recommend. There's kind of two ways I'd recommend approaching sites in Japan. Either go straight to where you want to go and don't even walk. Take like taxis and buses to save your feet because there's a lot of walking. But especially if you're like me and your feet can get tired pretty quickly. The other thing to do though is just wander around aimlessly
Yeah. Which is
because
probably what
you
I would
can
do.
stumble across some cool stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
While I was just in the neighborhood near my airport, like I just looked around because it's my first time seeing a Japanese neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I just
for
like
sure.
looked at the houses and stuff. And then also right across the street from a Family Mart was this cool shrine.
Yeah.
It was Anamori Inari Shrine.
Nice.
It's right by Anamori Inari Station.
I feel like those must be sort of everywhere. Little
Yeah,
shrines and
kinda.
stuff.
Especially in Kyoto, there's shrines
Mm.
everywhere. But yeah, and that was a cool little shrine just in the middle of this neighborhood.
Yeah, that's super cool.
I didn't know it was there until I got there.
Yeah.
And yeah, in Shinjuku, there was this little there was this street with these cool like cyan colored old looking light fixtures.
Oh yeah, you showed me that picture too. That's
those
really
were
cool.
neat and
Random, yeah.
didn't know anything about them, didn't know they were there. And then while I'm walking down this street, I just bump into another shrine. So that was cool. And then I looked on Google and went things to see in Shinjuku.
Oh, nice.
And one of the things was this garden or this park. And I went there and it was pretty and all, but frankly, I have seen prettier places in Oregon.
Yeah, just in where you live.
The thing
yeah.
is like the landscape
pretty
is
gorgeous
not
here, so.
dramatically different between Oregon and Japan.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities in just like the type of foliage we have and stuff. And we have a lot of hills and mountains in both places. So
I mean, we even have sakura trees here, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can grow a lot of the same plants here because the climate is similar, just less extreme. We don't get as high highs or as low lows as they get there. We don't get as much snow, and we don't get as much.
Although we're getting more and more of it.
yeah,
But
I know, right? And they have wet summers, and we have dry summers, and they have they have dry winters, and we have wetter winters.
Yeah. We've had very, very wet winter days past few days.
So like the park was a nice like reprieve from everything I'd been doing. I
Sure,
got to just sit and enjoy the scenery, but yeah, it was nothing
was just
particularly
okay, yeah.
special.
Got you.
Then I went back to the hotel again, and I was like, okay, the next place I'm gonna go is Shibuya. So I get on the train to Shibuya. Now I got on the correct train. The problem is the train was not on its normal schedule. And they communicated this clearly. I'm the one that missed it.
Okay.
So it's not their fault at all. I thought I was supposed to just stay on this train, and it turned out it was being diverted onto a different route, and I should have gotten off at a certain station to transfer.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't do that. But that's once I realized what I had done, I got off at the very next stop, and it was in Kawasaki, which is not a part of Tokyo that I had planned on visiting, but it was kind of neat.
Buy a motorcycle.
And I went into this area where there's just a ton of restaurants,
Okay.
just kind of this big indoor mall place, and I found one where they had bara soba, which is pork bone broth ramen,
Heck yeah.
basically,
Yum.
with soba noodles. And it was delicious. It was
Yeah.
probably the best meal I had there.
Awesome.
They fill it with slices of pork too.
Yeah,
I love
like
that.
tons.
There were like
Good.
5 or 6 pieces of pork in there, which was good.
That's sweet.
And yeah, a lot of flavor, good broth.
Yeah, I love like the pork broth, like ramens
Yeah.
and stuff.
And they
so-
didn't put too much. I don't really like it when they load it up with garnish on top.
Yeah,
It's
I
like-
know. Yeah, a lot of those veggies you don't really care for. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it was good.
Good stuff, dude.
It's funny. So it's one of those places where you pay at a machine and it gives you a ticket, and then you hand them a ticket,
Uh-huh.
and then they make your food and bring it to you. And the lady made my food and then stood in a corner and just watched everyone,
Nice.
which was a little intimidating. Like,
You eat and like it.
yeah. This was one of those little like tiny shops that had like less than 10 seats in it, which is always a good sign.
Right, it's
The fewer seats there are, the better the food probably is going
usually
to be.
yeah. Typically.
A lot of the McDonald's were multi-stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And again, it's just like there's often not a lot of horizontal room for them to grow out, so
Ah, yeah. For
so
the building,
they
yeah.
build up
That makes sense.
instead. Yeah. So I decided that was it for the night. I was exhausted, so it was only like 5 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
But I was
But you were
still
up super early though, weren't you?
yeah, I was up super early. I didn't sleep well on the plane, and my body was still kind of on a West Coast time zone, so
Right.
that was pretty that was only a couple hours later than I would have gone to bed anyway. If I was
On our time,
on
yeah.
West Coast time. So I went to sleep and I slept great.
Yeah, awesome.
Slept very well. And then I was going to get up first thing and go to Kyoto. But I woke up at like 3 a.m. First train didn't leave until 5. So I had 2 hours
Well,
of time to
only
kill.
2 hours though. It's not too bad.
So first thing I did is go to Family Mart and get some more food.
Heck yeah.
It was like the hotel offered breakfast, but breakfast hadn't started yet because it's 3
Because it was
a.m.
3 a.m.
So
Yeah,
I did not make use of their breakfast. But
that's funny.
yeah, I had a Maruchan ramen bowl
Oh, cool.
from Family Mart. Mm-hmm. And Maruchan in Japan is a bit different than Maruchan here.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more variety and stuff.
Yeah, and they give you an actual like bowl with the like noodle puck in there, and then I just added hot water and then added the sauce that came with it, and yeah,
Nice.
pretty good.
As far as instant bowls go, yeah.
Yeah, and then once it was ready to go, once it was time to go, I got on the train and got on the and transferred until I got to the station where I could get on the bullet train, the Shinkansen, from Tokyo to Kyoto.
Heck yeah. Isn't the Shinkansen like super expensive?
It's a little over $100 for a ticket
Yeah.
between Tokyo and Kyoto. So
Suppose that's better than a plane ticket though. So
after the fact, I compared the price of the JR Rail Pass versus what I spent.
oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
it's like for how short a time I was there, the price difference is almost none.
Uh-huh.
Like I think I spent about the same as I would have, but I also didn't ride JR lines exclusively, so I still would have had to
okay.
pay for those too. So I think ultimately I didn't need it. But if I had been there any longer, I
Like
probably would have
three
wanted to
or
get
four
it.
more days, you probably would have
Yeah.
got it, yeah.
So like the 7-day pass, if you're going to be there 7 days, you're probably
worth
going to
it.
spend that much anyway.
If you're riding every day, yeah.
And
Especially
especially if
Shinkansen.
you're going to ride the Shinkansen more than twice.
Yeah.
As soon as you've ridden it 3 or 4 times, that pass is
It's
paid
paid
for
for,
itself easily.
For
so,
sure.
yeah.
Makes sense.
And then, so I got to Kyoto. It was probably 8 or 9 a.m. because it takes about 3 hours on the bullet train to get from
Okay.
Tokyo to Kyoto. And first thing I wanted to do was go to well, first thing I did was go to my hotel and drop off my stuff, just like I did
Yeah, for sure.
Tokyo, and then
wanna lug around
I was
everything.
gonna go to Kiyomizu-dera Temple, which is like it's the big temple on the top of the hill that is in all the travel brochures and
Oh,
that
nice.
everybody wants to go to. It's
Awesome.
like the number one tourist destination spot in Kyoto, so of course I had to go there too.
Yeah, for sure. You want to see the tourist stuff a little bit, yeah.
I made the mistake of walking there from
Oh,
the
yeah?
hotel, which boy, so it's a
that
half
a
hour
lot?
walk, which
Yeah, okay.
when your feet are already tired,
Yeah,
is
that's
a problem.
true. That's
It's
true.
like, yeah, if my feet were fine, then
If you're
it
at
would've been one thing.
100%, not a big deal, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But before that, I stopped at a few places along the way that were just cool looking, and one of them was the Kyoto National History Museum, and you get to go through this Buddhist temple that has over 1,000 gold Buddhas
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
and statues of these other Japanese
That's crazy.
gods. You couldn't take any pictures inside, but it was really cool. You could take pictures of the outside as long as you couldn't see the inside from the photo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could imagine that's a weird looking building inside.
Yeah.
Seeing all of that in there, yeah.
And so then I finally made it up to the temple. I was concerned about crowds because I had been warned, like,
I mean, it's Japan, yeah.
yeah, like it's Japan. There's a lot of tourists there right now. I was expecting to be kind of mobbed by people,
Yeah.
but they handle crowding so much better over there that it was such a non-issue.
Yeah.
It's like a crowd twice the size of a typical crowd in the U.S. was half as hard to get through.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like I've been in bad crowds here in the States, and they're way worse
yeah.
than crowds in Japan.
That's
'Cause
awesome.
They move.
They
The people just walk.
actually move, yeah.
Like they don't just stand around and wander and take up space. No, they get moving. It's great.
That's awesome.
And they don't like, I don't know.
Less loitery.
Yes. And less entitled and less.
yeah. There's that too.
And they don't individually take up so much space.
More space.
Than they should. And yeah.
Wider than the average Japanese person.
Yeah. Because like when I was in Kawasaki and I was getting out of that main like mall area, that was like the biggest crowd I had encountered
Okay.
thus far at that point. And yeah, it took very little time to
It's
get
just
through.
nothing, yeah.
And then as far as the tourist attractions go, Kiyomizu-dera had a fair few bit of people, although they were mostly locals.
Oh, interesting.
I did not come across a ton of foreigners. And a lot of them were all part of one big school trip.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that was perfectly fine. Like no, that was not difficult.
Were they
to
wearing
get through.
uniforms?
Yep.
Nice. Cool.
I don't know which school they were a part of.
Yeah,
but yeah.
but you got to see legit school uniforms.
Yeah, legit Japanese high schoolers in legit
Actual-
school uniforms. Yeah,
Going through something supernatural, I'm sure.
yeah. And so I saw that, and I went to a couple other spots. There's a big like shopping area.
Always in a tourist area,
just south of the temple, and that's where I got a couple other gifts for other family members.
Nice.
And I had some ramen at a little hole in the wall shop there in
Oh, sweet.
Kyoto. It was pretty good.
Why was it not the best ramen you've ever had?
I don't know. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
It was comparable to what I've had at Ramen Ryoma.
Oh yeah, Ryoma is so good.
Yeah. Gosh. But like you can tell Ramen Ryoma was started by actual Japanese people.
Well, that's true.
and so
Very true.
it was like it doesn't really matter if the Japanese people are in Japan or if they're in
yeah.
the U.S.
Doesn't make that much
If
of a
it's
difference, I guess,
somebody,
yeah.
a Japanese person who has spent their life crafting their ramen,
knows how to make ramen.
then they can still make really good ramen. So
Makes sense.
I'm sure that if I went to like
I'm sure there's somewhere that's better, but yeah.
to like the street food in Fukuoka, like yeah, there might be a little like 3-person only stall where they have the best ramen you've ever had in your life, but I didn't go there. So and this place was still easily like among the best ramen I've had. So
Yeah,
it was
okay.
still very good, obviously. It just yeah. And yeah, the second day in Kyoto, I did the same thing the first day and went to bed as soon as sundown hit.
Okay.
The second day in Kyoto, I took a taxi and went straight to Fushimi Inari Shrine at about 4 a.m. There was not a single soul there. It was great.
Oh yeah, that's so
I got
cool.
the whole shrine to myself.
Gosh, that's the time to do it. I feel
It's
like.
this massive, really cool shrine. No one else there. I climbed
so
the
cool.
whole mountain. It's the 10,000 Torii Gate
Yeah,
shrine. And yeah,
that's like a classic one. Yeah.
there were signs warning of boars and monkeys and
Heck
to
yeah.
avoid them.
So you didn't get attacked by a monkey?
No,
That's good.
And frankly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I would have done if I did. So I was very
I'm
fortunate not
This
to.
monkey's messing me up. That's awesome.
I don't necessarily recommend doing that one by yourself, just in case you do come across a boar or a monkey. But I got lucky and didn't have to deal with any of that. You get some cool views of Kyoto as well. It was raining, which was unfortunate because I didn't have an umbrella, so I got really soaked.
Oh geez, yeah. I bet it was really pretty in the rain though.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping that like the sun would come up during that, but it was so cloudy that I couldn't really see the sun.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I climbed all the way up and all the way down, which took about an hour. And also, so my feet were already tired just starting that day, and then I climbed up a mountain.
And then I climbed a mountain. Yeah, that'll do it.
And
That's
then
awesome.
after that, there was a samurai and ninja museum. So
Oh,
of course
yeah.
I had to check that
That's
out.
so cool.
And got to learn a little bit about that. Got to see some authentic swords and armor.
Yeah, weren't the swords like insanely old? Some of them. Yeah,
Yeah, some of them were crazy old.
like over 100 years. Yeah.
Oh yeah, hundreds of years in some
Hundreds.
cases. Yeah,
That's pretty sweet.
and yeah, I got to learn a little bit about some of the history and all that. It was cool.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, like I know a fair bit about Japanese history, but I still got to learn some things that I didn't know. That was cool. I got to go to the Golden Pavilion, which I've heard is
Yeah.
overrated, and I disagree. It
Yeah?
was cool.
That's like the giant gold pagoda. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to go while it's under construction, and
Yeah.
they do have to rebuild it every like 20 years or something.
Yeah, I bet that's
The
expensive.
current one is obviously not the original. It has been rebuilt many times, but
Yeah.
that's because between fires, earthquakes, floods, typhoons, etc.
What are you gonna do,
It
right?
can only last so long. So unfortunately, you are not seeing the original building, but that's because the original building doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So it's still very cool looking, I think.
Yeah.
And I did get to see the Imperial Palace.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's
that
sick,
one
yeah.
also it burned down 5 times in its history.
Yeah.
So you were seeing it like the 6th or 7th incarnation of it.
Only 5 times.
Yeah. Still, I think it's been around for over 100 years at this point, like the current building. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean that's pretty good. Yeah.
And then before the day was up, I had time, so I was going to go to Osaka, and I did, and I got to see Osaka Castle.
Yes.
And
That's
so
the spot.
I've
Right?
wanted
Come
to see
on.
Osaka Castle since I first saw Godzilla destroy it
Of course. Yes.
in one of the old movies. And that was so cool, especially because I got out of the station and I could see it right away.
You could already see it.
It
Yeah,
towers.
it's gigantic.
over
Yeah.
stuff. It's big and it's very high up too.
Oh, okay. It's
So,
like kind of on a hill or a
Yeah,
mountain.
it's
Okay.
not. It's definitely not the tallest building, and it's not even the highest building, but it's very high up on like on a hill, kind of in the middle of the city. And once you get up there, you can see the whole city all in like a 360-degree view, and it's very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The inside is kind of whatever. It's they've turned it into a museum and a gift shop, and so
Yeah,
you know.
as they do.
As they do. There's also a building next to it that looks kind of like an old. It looks like a Western style building. It doesn't look very Japanese, and
Oh,
it
really?
looks kind of like an old school.
Okay.
And that's just full of restaurants and gift shops. But they've still got like the ramparts. They still have the old like walls around the castle back when it was a small, when it was a fortification and it had like a living quarters and stuff for people. There's still a moat, which was cool because I've actually never seen a castle moat in real life before. So I got to see that.
Heck yeah.
And then I had to try some yakitori, some just chicken on a skewer.
Chicken on a stick.
And I go to this place, and it is very Japanese. They don't
It
speak
is
any English. There is no English menu. It's just, and so it took a little bit of time for me and the person taking my order to like understand each other.
Yeah.
Learning helpful tip, momo, which has multiple
Momo,
meanings
okay.
depending on the kanji, but this was just written in hiragana, so I'm like, oh no, what is this? But it means thigh.
Oh, okay.
It also means peach.
Okay.
But in the context of chicken, it means thigh.
Yeah, you can usually tell if it means one or the other. I would assume.
Japanese is a very context-specific language, so. And yeah, so important thing to know if you're going to order yakitori, momo means thigh. Shio means salt, and tare was a word for a sauce of some sort. And
Okay.
so I got some shio, and I tried some momo tare. But at first, there was this smaller menu, and it was the only menu I saw, and it's the osusume menu, which means chef's recommendation. And so because I thought that's all there was, I just ordered off of that first. And I got this
Okay.
fried chicken thing with a spicy sauce on top. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't what I was looking for. So I did eat it because it was actually decent, and I was really hungry at the
Yeah,
time.
but you don't love.
But I don't love
Spice,
spicy food,
especially, yeah.
and I wasn't looking for something fried again because I'd had enough fried chicken at that point.
Dang.
So I did try the momoshio and the momotare yakitori, but frankly, it wasn't really any better than just chicken teriyaki.
Dang. Yeah.
It was good, but it was nothing special.
That's a shame.
Yeah. So it was kind of a disappointment that I was looking that forward to it, and it was like, oh. And I can tell it was like good quality. It wasn't like it was I had just gone to a bad place, I don't think. I think it's just a very plain dish.
Interesting.
Also, I didn't realize that yakitori shops pretty much only operate in the evenings, and it made sense when I realized, oh, okay, this is a place where people come and drink and eat and keep drinking and keep eating and keep drinking just all throughout the night. That's the kind of place it is. They were a little off put when I asked for water instead of beer.
That's funny.
But thankfully, like, I did wonder if maybe they were going to be like weird about giving me water. I know that can be a thing in some parts of the world, that like getting water is not necessarily easy or cheap.
Okay.
Like it's not like in the US where like in the US you can go to basically any restaurant, they will give you a free cup of water and they will refill it the entire time you're there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a thing in every country. But it was not hard to get water. You just have to ask for it.
Okay.
You don't necessarily get refills, but they will give you water. Although, out of like 10 times, there was maybe 2 times where they gave me tea instead of water, even when I asked for water. And I used the Japanese word for water, mizu.
Yeah.
And mizu is not the word for
Ocha.
tea.
That is definitely
tea
not
is,
ocha.
is ocha or cha.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And like even one time, like one of the waiters had given me tea, and then a different waiter, I'm like, can I get water? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. Sorry.
Can I have just water?
Can I have actual water and not, tea
Yeah.
with water in it?
Huh? Just a thought.
Yeah. So I spent my last day in Tokyo. I did wind up going to Shibuya, and I had some yakiniku there. Got some. It was Wagyu beef, but Wagyu beef literally just means Japanese beef. So it isn't. It wasn't necessarily like the A5 grade, like super ultra premium
Right.
Wagyu, but it was good.
Wasn't an insane Kobe
It had
or
a nice
anything.
like marbling on it. You could tell it was a decent cut of meat.
Okay.
And this was short rib.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
Short
Wagyu
rib's good.
short rib. So yeah, and that was good. And it's yakiniku, so they give you the raw beef and you cook it yourself, so you can cook it as much or as little as you want. And yeah, I had that with a bowl of rice. Oh, and one place that I ate at 3 times, which this is in terms of value for money was the best by far, was this chain restaurant called Skia, which does beef bowls.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got a beef bowl, and it's rice, beef, and onions. Now, I don't really like the onions, but I like the flavor. So
Right.
I would just the first bowl I got, I painstakingly peeled
Meticulously
all
took
of
'em
the
out.
onions out of it.
Yeah.
But it tasted good.
Yeah.
Then I realized you can go in and just say no onion. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I did that for the next 2 times.
Nice.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely be trying that when I go there.
Yeah. They offer like small, medium, large. They also offered an extra medium,
Extra medium.
which was
Heck yeah.
a medium,
Super
but with more
medium.
meat and less rice, which I'm like, oh,
couldn't,
perfect.
Couldn't be more medium.
Yes. And yeah, so I ordered there 3 times because it was very good. It's great too because you go in, you sit down, you order at a tablet,
Yep.
and you eat your food. You can order more food, and they'll bring out more food. And then when you're all done, you just bring your ticket up to the counter and then pay. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great way to do things.
That's really cool.
It is interesting how many things they do on the honor system. Because just the culture over
Very
there.
different cultural culture, yeah.
So how buses work. Buses here, at least TriMet. I haven't been on other buses here in
Yeah.
the States, but
So the ones
TriMet,
we've used, yeah.
you get in at the front where the driver is, you pay as you get on, and then you sit down, and then you can get out. I think you're supposed to get out in the back, but you can get out in the front too. They don't care.
Yeah.
In Japan, you get in the back,
Uh-huh.
and you don't pay until you leave, and you pay in the front, and you leave out the front.
Interesting.
So, like, there's nothing really stopping you from just leaving out the
Leaving
back
out the
without
back,
paying.
yeah.
But I guess that's so rare that they don't need to do
Not an
anything
issue.
about it.
Yeah. How interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool, I think. But
Yeah. It was 230 yen, so just like maybe $2. I forget.
Yeah.
The exchange rate is like a yen is less than a penny, so it was it was at most like $2.10 or something. But they only gave exact change, so if you gave like 250 yen, you lose 20 yen. But,
Yeah.
that wasn't a big deal to me.
Dang.
I did have exact change 2 times, and the third time I just paid 250 yen and didn't worry about I don't need the 12 cents worth of change back. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did take trains, buses, and 2 taxis. The taxis were a little more expensive, but they take you directly to where you're going, so that's nice. And they operate pretty much 24 hours because you just look up on your app or whatever. Well, that's what I used an app called Didi, which is an international like taxi app.
Oh, okay.
and just called them through there. It didn't like my credit card, so I just paid in cash.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You paid in cash a lot there.
Convenience stores generally accepted cards. Interestingly, that yakitori place took cards. With it being so Japanese, I wondered if they would, but
Yeah.
they appear to also be modern.
Okay.
That particular shop, anyway.
Interesting.
But yeah, a lot of restaurants, no cards. They'll only take cash.
Yeah. Okay.
And some train ticket machines did not take cards. But they didn't take credit cards. But you can get like a Suica card or an IC card. And then you can load money onto that and then just use that to take. And that's what a lot of Japanese people do is they'll have a IC card or a Suica card and then they'll load money onto it. And then when they get on the train, they just scan the card
Okay.
instead of having to deal with all the change and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say, so like while public bathrooms are not that common and there are restaurants that don't have bathrooms, convenience stores don't have bathrooms, almost every train station has a bathroom.
Oh.
So if you're taking the train
All right.
a lot, and a lot of Japanese people do,
Yeah.
that's a great way to go to the bathroom.
Nice.
And most bathrooms have garbage cans of some sort. So even if it's a very small one.
You tell me you can sit and have a garbage can?
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
I
No
did
way.
see one squatting toilet while I was there.
Oh,
Just
really?
one. Yeah. Most the toilets
Mostly they're like super modern,
most
right?
of the toilets I used had bidets. They were heated. They were super nice.
Yeah. So interesting. I mean, I'm glad that bidets are finally getting more popular here.
Yeah.
Now that they're like cheaper and have just the toilet attachment or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
yeah.
my bidet.
That's funny.
So, on the flight back home, it was actually shorter, and there's a couple of reasons for that. I think
Yeah.
I think literally the wind actually is different. So like, but so it was only about 9.5 hours back home, and I realized that they had a bunch of in-flight entertainment, including movies. So I just watched 3 Marvel movies, and that
Nice.
took most of the time of the flight. So that was great.
That's awesome.
That was a great way to kill time on the flight. And then a lot less people were trying to sleep, so I wasn't as worried about bothering anybody. And I was on an outside seat, and it wasn't uncomfortably warm. So the flight back home was much more pleasant than the
Yeah.
flight there. But then I land at San Francisco, and my flight is canceled. And turns out flights are canceled all over the freaking country right now. Still.
Oh, like insanely.
Like as of right now,
Like
it's
thousands and
December
thousands.
28th, and yeah, there's flight cancellations all over the country. So I tried like 5 or 6 different airlines, and none of them had flights going into Oregon of any kind.
Uh-huh.
Not to Portland, not to Eugene, not anywhere. And
Messed up.
after fruitlessly trying to do that, and also trying to get in touch with United to get some sort of refund or travel voucher or something for my cancellation, and not getting through to anybody because, of course, everybody else is going through the
Yeah,
same
exactly.
thing and their lines are ringing off the hook. I was like, whatever. I'm going to rent a car and just drive home. I was in San Francisco. It's going to Portland. It's 10
Yeah.
hours. I've been on longer drives. It's not a big deal.
Yep.
But I hadn't slept in 24 hours at this point. So
Right.
it wasn't necessarily
That's
the
not
best
good, yeah.
idea for me to be driving.
Driving 12 hours.
Yeah. But I go downstairs to the car rental area,
Mm-hmm.
and there's another guy who not only is he going the same direction as me, he went to high school with me.
Yep.
Like, I didn't recognize him, but we went to the same high school, and probably at some point at the same time, because he was only a couple years younger than me.
It's so crazy.
And he was in the same situation. His flight had been canceled. He's stuck at San Francisco airport. He's renting a car to go home. So we split the bill and carpooled. And unlike me, he had slept in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
So he was in a much better shape to drive. That
Yeah.
was good.
And didn't he drive like the whole time?
Yeah, he drove the whole time, which was
That's
actually
awesome.
great for me because I've just it was probably not a great idea for me to be driving at that
Yeah,
point, just
yeah.
with how little I had slept.
For sure.
I was weirdly awake for how little I had slept, but
Yeah.
even so, you often feel more awake than you really are, and
You're not
so,
sharp, yeah.
yeah. And we made it home. There was not a lot of ice on the road until we got to Salem, and even then there was only a little. So it was not a big deal.
Yeah.
And I made it home for the holidays, and we had Christmas. So this is also kind of our Christmas spoils episode. We're already at the hour.
Yep.
We can briefly go over what we got. I got you a Salamence plushie.
Yeah.
I saw that
From
and
Japan.
immediately thought you.
It's a pretty big one too, which is nice.
And I didn't get it from any of the like big like 7-story figure shops or anything. There was
Yeah.
just this little hole in the wall shop that had a handful of things, and one of them was a Salamence plushie.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like, officially licensed and stuff too, which is nice. Because there is a lot of knockoff Pokemon plushies out there. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yep, so that's super cool.
Yeah, did you get anything else interesting?
I got nothing else for Christmas. Can you believe it? It's messed up. Just kidding. I got the flannel I'm wearing right now, which is nice from my wife. She also got me 3 really cool books. One of them is a Kingdom Hearts book that it's called like Ultimadia or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's got tons of art, tons of story, sort of like things. It's basically just a special, book for Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Super cool. Came out a few years ago, but I just never got it,
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, she got me the Pokemon X and Y special edition like guide,
Yeah.
which is like a hardcover book, super nice inside. And it's just like a really niche, weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've sort of always wanted it and never had it.
Yeah.
And so it's super cool, actually. And she got me a new, really nice edition of the Silmarillion,
Mm-hmm.
the J.R. Tolkien book. And so I'm probably going to bring that and try to read that some, I think, on our trip coming up here.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of other cool stuff, too. A lot of coffee-related things, new scale and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun stuff.
Yeah, I got some clothes. I got some and they're nice. I don't want to like
Oh, yeah.
like breeze
Alright, some
past them just
clothes, I
'cause-
guess.
But yeah. I got some board games like Star Wars Villainous. I got a Jurassic
cool.
Park chess set, which
Yeah, you're
was
welcome.
interesting. Pretty cool.
So cool.
Yeah. Oh, and a big Squirtle plushie.
Yes, I got you a giant Squirtle. It's the cutest thing in the world.
My favorite Pokemon.
Yeah, so we did get each other Pokemon plushies, which is interesting,
Yeah.
which is quite funny. Quite funny.
Yep.
Yep,
Well,
that's that.
I think that's good. Hey, Nico, where can our listeners
bud?
get a hold of us?
Why are you asking me? Oh, right, I'm the guy that does that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess thanks for listening to this episode of the Brothers Game podcast. During that whole episode, I was walking around in Pokemon Violet picking up berries that were on the ground, the EV lowering berries. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please download the podcast on whatever platform you're listening, just so we know that you're listening. And if you can follow us on Twitter at the Brothers G Pod, that'd be also pretty pog champ.
You can also check out our subreddit, r/Brothers Game Podcast.
What? That's crazy. I guess that's it.
All right.
Be crazy, everybody.
Yep.
As I always say, be crazy. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night. It's 5:30, but okay.